Hello, everyone. Today I am joined by Kia, who is a homeschool mom of 5, raising her kids in the desert of Arizona with her husband, Courtney, of 13 years. She loves the colors purple and green, organizing hacks, planners, and burgers. Yes, she is an extrovert, yay, who enjoys encouraging others. Together, Courtney and Kia strive to raise their kids in their Christian faith, which is the foundation of their homeschool. She loves the educational philosophy and methods of Charlotte Mason and mixes some classical in with it. Kia loves reading parenting books, watching homesteading, and organizing videos on YouTube. And she dreams of living on a small farm with a home that has a basement someday, but basement homes are rare in Arizona. Every year when October rolls around, Kia excitedly counts down the days until the new Hallmark holidays movies begin. It's one of her favorite holiday traditions. And you will love following her over on Instagram because she is a fun and friendly neighbor there in the Instagram hood. And I have really enjoyed following you over there over the past year or so. And I'm so excited we get to chat today.
Yay, I'm so excited.
Well, at the beginning, I know I kind of already give everybody a little bit of a bio, but if you want to tell me a little bit about yourself and your family, and then how you began this adventure of homeschooling.
Yes, that is like probably my favorite question. And I'm like, okay, don't go too far, Kate. Like, don't just throw up all the excitement. Like, reel it in, reel it in. But it is like the question that gets me super excited. So as you said, my husband and I are college sweethearts, and we have been married for 13 years, and we have 5 very spunky kids. We love them. So this is something unique about us. We decided as newlyweds that we would give our children our initials. And so it's kind of a weird rotation because we said the first girl would have my initials, the first boy would have his initials, and then we would rotate back and forth from there. So as it stands right now, we have Cohen, who's our oldest, who's 11, and then Kendall, who is 9.5, then Kyle, who's 7, Clara, who is 5, and then Conrad, who is 2.5. And we really enjoy them. They are so much fun. Like, parenting is mine and Courtney's jam. If you ask us, we will tell you, like, we love parenting. And yeah, so born and raised out here in Arizona, and over time, I had been exposed to some homeschool families. Never really gave it any thought, hard thought before I had kids. And but there was one family at my old church. We do this big Christmas production, and we were getting ready backstage doing our makeup, and the mom was quizzing her daughter in Spanish, and this girl was so fluent. She just really, I loved talking to her, and she was maybe 10 at the time. I was like, wow. And I was like, so what school does she go to? And the mom's like, oh, well, I homeschool her. And I was like, really? And that was like my first instance. I was in college at the time. That was my first like interaction positively with like a homeschool family that I was like, there might be something there. But so fast forward a couple of years, my husband and I had gotten married and everything. And the church that we had moved to at that point had a number of homeschool families. And I was newly pregnant, and we were like, And so my husband started asking a lot of questions to the dads, like, what does this look like? Because, as the head of the household, he's like, how do you make this work financially? Like, give me your secrets, because I'm kind of liking this idea, but I kind of also don't know, because the other thing that we had considered was like, would we do charter school or private school? And private school, we realized we would probably be, calling up our family members like, hey, you want to donate some money to the education of your grandchild?
And we were like, Christmas presents.
Yeah, don't give us any Christmas presents. Give my children an education. And so we were like, so it was just so funny. We were like, I don't think that's going to work. So my husband started asking a lot of questions that then turned into having these dinners with these families, and then both of us asking questions. And the first thought that I had in thoughts of teaching was, And I remember my husband laughed. I was like, do I need to go back to college to get a teaching degree? He was like, no, I already asked that. And then he said, no, not even. And the moms were like, are you kidding, Kia? Like this, this is what you can do. And so the best advice we got from a very large homeschool family, they have 7 kids, and um, they said, hey, come with us to the homeschool convention that happens annually in Arizona in the summer. And they're like, just come, you can have all this time to kind of just hear from speakers in the homeschool world, but also like you can just walk around the exhibitors hall and like see these different curriculums, because you will be very surprised that you can pick up a curriculum and it's open and go and you don't have to stress. And I was like, wait, what? And then they were talking about, ways to save money and all these things. And Courtney and I, mind you, Cohen, our oldest, was like a baby at this time. We were like, we're homeschooling. Like I came home from the convention and I was just telling my husband probably like 100 miles per minute, telling him about my positive experience at the convention. And he was like, set, done. You're good. I'm good. We're excited. We're homeschooling our kids. And so from there, while I wasn't homeschooling yet, and I was like having the kids to homeschool, a lot of them, a good majority of them before I started homeschooling, I was just pouring myself over reading different books and philosophies and kind of checking that whole thing out and getting kind of excited about when the time came, how would we, launch ourselves into homeschooling. And so far, I would say it has been the absolute best parenting decision I've ever made. And it has been so life-giving to every single person in my family. All of us love it. We love the benefits of it. And man, we're like a super giddy homeschool family.
I love your enthusiasm and I love the passion that is so evident in what you're saying. And I too think it's sometimes older homeschoolers can kind of be like, oh, those, moms who get so excited about homeschooling when their little ones are a baby or a toddler and can kind of roll their eyes. I think it's a good reminder, like, don't discount that. Like that young mom is so excited and just wants to learn and wants someone to come alongside them and be like, hey, come to the convention. Let me show you my homeschool books. Let me talk to you about it. Like that's a real gift that we can give these young moms who are super excited and not kind of poo-poo them and be like, oh, you don't really know what you're thinking about yet. Because they don't, but neither do we. So let's be real.
We're all learning as we go along. So really,
exactly.
We can all just be a nice, good group think going on.
Well, over the years, though, as you started getting excited when your oldest was so young, and then you've been implementing homeschooling now for several years. How would you say that your philosophy or approach to education has grown or changed or developed over those years?
Oh man, that is a superb question, because it really does change. And I think that was the thing that I couldn't see as a new homeschooler. And I was like, I need to pick one path and stay on that path until they're through high school. Like I can't veer, I can't go left, I can't go right. Like I just have to go straight. And like I kind of boxed myself in. And even with that, I was, still, as one of the homeschool dads that we know says, he says, you're peeling that onion, those layers off of having more of a traditional school path mind. And for me, that was the struggle, was, oh, well, I need to basically, as a lot of us in the homeschool community say, replicate school in my home. And then I was like, okay, I need to get this, I need to get that. And I was so hung up on that stuff. So reading different philosophies was really helpful because it was challenging me. And I first had heard of Charlotte Mason from a friend of mine. We were part of this moms group. We were part of under the umbrella of MOPS, but we did our MOPS a little bit differently. I like to think our MOPS was the best MOPS in all the land because it was really edifying. And so we did not do a craft. Like MOPS is very well known for like doing crafts as moms. And we were like, we will not do a craft at all, please. And thank you. We want to, wrestle with motherhood ideas and everything. So in that group, um, I had made some homeschool friends and we were playing on the playground, and my friend says, "Hey, so have you ever read anything from Charlotte Mason? I just started digging into this Charlotte Mason lady." And I was like, "No, like, tell me more." And she's like, "Okay." She's like, "I'm sending you the link. Get this book. Like, let's kind of discuss, you know?" And so we were taking time kind of looking at Cindy Rollins, Karen Andriola, and different things. And then obviously, if you're gonna dabble in Charlotte Mason, you've got to hear Charlotte Mason speak herself. So you've got to get her volumes, right? And so then from there, she had told me about a book group that literally did this thing. And I was like, "You've got to be kidding. This is great." And so I felt very drawn to Charlotte Mason in educating the whole child and spreading the feast and all of that. And I was like, that sounds beautiful. The thing about it is that getting started was like, what do I do? And then I turned to Instagram and I was like, oh, it was like so overwhelming. And I was like, maybe, is this for me? My spread doesn't look that beautiful. I need a tea set, honey. Like all these things. And when I got into this particular women's school A group, they really calmed my fears. And they're like, "No, you need to implement this slowly." So I feel like in a lot of ways, I'm still getting in my stride of the Charlotte Mason philosophy, where it's like, we started adding nature and nature notebooking. And then, later on down the road, we had added in our tea time, and so we just gradually were doing these things in spreading the feast. My favorite is our morning basket. And then from there were some things, because one of the ways I've grown is I have become confident in the fact that I don't have to be glued to one philosophy and be a purist, because I've come encounter with my fair share of purists on a lot of sides. And I love what they have to say because they can help me see the particular philosophy in a much more rich way. But I grew in my own personal confidence in educating my own children, where I was able to say, okay, maybe that bit isn't for us yet or right now, or maybe even not at all, but I can also pick from other philosophies, which is why for us, my husband, okay, this is a little secret, and he would be like, "Did you tell him that?" But I'm going to tell you anyway. Sonia Schaefer, he is a total fangirl of Sonia Schaefer, because one of the homeschool conferences that we went to a couple years back, she was there, and he sat in on all the sessions with me. And so he had started listening to her podcast and stuff. He loves her. And he's like, "I do like the Charlotte Mason philosophy." But he does also like the classical methods. And so he's like, "I just want to mix in just a little bit of things." So we have kind of taken that time to mix those things in and kind of cherry pick a little bit, because it does suit our family. And that was the thing, was taking that stuff and then learning about it, but then saying, okay, how do I implement that in my home in a way that's life-giving to my individual home? And so that's kind of how I've grown in my homeschooling. Whereas at the beginning, I was like, I have to do it this one way. And then I was like, I can do it whatever way I want in whatever season I'm in, because it's always changing. It's always changing, So I would even say this year alone, we have kind of implemented a little bit more of I guess you could say unschooling or child-led learning, just given certain circumstances. And I was like, that's okay. We can do that. We can totally do that. You guys, this is your education, and we can tailor it however we want to. And we're like, and it feels so good that we didn't have to stay on one strict path, which that's the thing that gets me so excited about homeschooling, is you can change it up to suit the needs of your children, however that looks,
Yeah, I like to say that you're not married to your homeschool plan, right? This isn't marriage. You're allowed to change partway through. And that's one of the joys of homeschooling too, that we can learn the principles. We can be inspired by ideas, and then we have the freedom and the authority to apply them in the way that best suits our own families and in our own season of life. Like it could change year to year, and that's okay too. So I love hearing that from you. Yeah.
Oh man, yes, so much.
Well, I mean, that right there is a pretty great part of homeschooling. But has there been something else that's been a real favorite part of homeschooling for you?
Oh man, I just love so much about homeschooling. I think that my kids would probably say, very quickly, we, squashed that very outdated stereotype of homeschoolers of, you guys don't socialize. How are you going to socialize your child? I'm like, no. My children are so over socialized. I have to rein it back in, actually. But to that point, I love that we are able to school anytime we want to. So there's sometimes that we have play dates or a museum visit or something in the morning. So then we do school in the afternoon or even into the evening. We're like schooling around the dinner table, or vice versa or whatever. But we're able to not miss out on the life education that homeschooling provides in that relational aspect of being able to go out and be with our friends and make these memories and even learn that. I feel like, I don't know about you, but I feel like a lot of learning happens at play dates because inevitably there is a spat between two children, sometimes even six, but it's like a great relational lesson. And you're like, okay, so we want to think about sharing, and you can just wrap in like these life lessons that I would like to think is going to make these children just really great friends and better siblings, and hopefully in the future really great spouses. And so I really love that aspect that we're able to have that, because I know me, homeschooling would have probably been great for me when growing up, because of how expressive I am. Like as an extrovert, to be told to sit in your desk and to be quiet, my report cards, all of them read. And it was funny because my dad had found some of them a couple of years ago and was laughing and sending me pictures where it said, Kia is a great student. Kia is bright. Kia is this, but she tends to talk a lot. Or they would try to put it nicely, like, she is a social butterfly. She is head of the hospitality committee. Like the teachers got really creative and how they would basically say, can you tell your daughter to like pipe down in class?
I love that. I have to interject because my mom, you need to meet my mom. You have to come over to North Carolina sometime. She would always tell us the same story. So she's an extrovert as well, like I am.
Yeah.
And she said like the only bad grade she ever got in school was she would always get like a terrible grade on her, whatever it's called, like basically your class behavior or whatever, because it was always from talking, but she just had things to say.
Yes, I have so much to say and I just want to talk to everybody. And it was like so hard. And so I'm just like, I'm so glad that my kids who tend, like both my husband and I are very extroverted. So it's like I've given birth to a bunch of extrovert children. And so they, it's so nice because they get to, they can talk as much as they want and kind of go through that. So that's one of my favorite things about homeschooling. I would say paired with that, just being able to tailor the education to each of my children, because not each, like they don't all learn the same. They just don't. And my older two, because they're 17 months apart, they kind of school in tandem as far as the curriculum levels go. But like I have to teach this same idea or concept to one child this way and to the other child the other way. And I love that we're able to do that, because I have one kid that is just an auditory learner. We can go through audio books. I mean, that is their bread and butter. And that narration back to me, amazing. I'm like, wow, you picked up things in that book I didn't. Incredible. And then my other one, tends to be more of a reader. So you got to pull open the book. They want the physical book. I like both. This one wants the physical book and they want to thumb through it, dog ear it, everything to be able to have that, and in there highlighting the book and stuff. And so I find that it's really cool to be able to tailor the education, the same thing that they're all learning, but in different ways. I already know that some of my younger kids coming up, one of them is very kinesthetic. So I already am like gathering up as I see things pop up on like Facebook Marketplace from other homeschool moms. I'm like, I'm gonna need that for my kinesthetic learner. Can ship that to me, please? Because you kind of just see that, and I recognize that in them because we have that time to be able to do that. And it's just such a blessing to know that they're learning and deeply learning, like to the point of mastery, because they're learning in a way that they can absorb it and not being told, no, you need to learn it this one way, and kind of making it almost like, or else you haven't learned it at all, So I just love it. I just love it. I told you, I pretty much love everything about homeschooling.
Okay, so let me follow up with a question here. So you love pretty much everything about homeschooling. Has there been a challenge of homeschooling, and how have you sought to overcome maybe a challenge, maybe a not quite so fun part?
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, I'm laughing because I feel like we're in a time of the biggest challenge I foresee for this upcoming year is, so we love to be with our friends. Our co-op is like immensely, I mean, just like so very special to us. That is some of our deepest relationships. And since we moved to a different part of the greater Phoenix Valley, we are about 45 minutes away from our co-op. It's all freeway, thank God. But we're watching the gas prices go up, and I'm like, this is gonna be a challenge. Oh, this is gonna be a challenge. So I laugh because it's kind of funny, but truly, like, we're gonna overcome whatever obstacle we need to be able to be at our co-op. But I think one of the, because we've had a few challenges, and it's funny because now when I look back on those challenges, I'm like, that challenge wasn't quite as big as I thought it was. One of the things I like about Charlotte Mason's philosophy is that she recommends starting kids in formal education at about 6 or 7, right? And I so have seen that be the fruit, like the fruit in that, the wisdom in that. But I really struggled because I tried to pull, the firstborn child, you just kind of experiment, and they have to be so flexible with what you're doing. And my son Cohen, he is so gracious. I love that boy. And when we started, I was like, he's not reading yet, but all of his friends are reading. This is terrible. I'm failing as a mother. Like, he's never going to read. And my husband will always calm my fears, and he's like, yeah, he's going to read. Like, maybe try not stressing him out. And I think that letting that comparison sneak in was the biggest problem in the beginning of our homeschool journey, because I was trying to rush him to be something, be at a certain point that he wasn't ready to come to. Does my 11-year-old devour books now? Absolutely. Absolutely. Because he's more of an auditory learner, he could listen, but when it came to looking on the paper and stuff, it took him a little bit longer. And when it clicked, and I remember I have a friend who has 10 kids, and I would just cry to her, and I was like, he's never gonna, because she was using the same curriculum I was using for language arts. I was like, he's never gonna get it. And she's like, Kia, it is going to click. And when it clicks, it's gonna take off. And I remember the moment where I realized it had clicked and taken off, I texted her and I was like, you were so right. I love you so much. You deserve all the roses and applause and hugs and kisses and all the good gifts, because you just kept encouraging me, and surely it took off. And that was really so awesome. I think the biggest challenge that we have faced in our homeschool has been this whole last school year, where I mentioned earlier that we kind of have done a little bit of unschooling, because I rolled into the fall with a very well laid plan, because I like planners. I like organization. So I rolled into the new school year and I was like, it's gonna be fabulous. And I think it's funny because I feel like a lot of my friends would say the prior year when we're going through 2020 and everything was like their biggest challenging year. But this past fall was, and we were in the midst of finding a new home, moving, and then abruptly in the middle of our actual physical moving week, I found out that I'd lost our son Keegan, who's our sixth kiddo, but he's in heaven. He had passed away about between 17 and 18 weeks, and I ended up miscarrying him week 21. And in that time, like I had mentally prepared for the interruption of moving and all of that. And so I felt like I had a plan to overcome that, but you really don't have a plan to overcome tragedy and death and grieving and then holding up your whole family while you're grieving. And so we had to just shelve our curriculum. And I was like, there was some guilt in there because I was like, oh my gosh, like, oh goodness, we're going to be behind. But I have a really great friend in co-op, and she always, anytime any of us utter the words, I'm behind, she's like, behind who? Tell me. Who is it that you're behind? What's their name? I want their name. Give me their address, Kia. Tell me. And I'm like, no one. She's like, exactly. You are behind no people, zero. And I'm like, oh gosh. So, but at that time, I just felt like, oh gosh, there's like no learning happening. But my kids were picking up books off of our bookshelf and exploring different things in the midst of it. And they were finding comfort in reading, because they were also grieving. My kids, they love being siblings to one another. And they were so excited to be expecting another sibling. And they actually, because it was a later miscarriage, I had to go through labor. I birthed my son's body. And my kids actually wanted to see his little tiny formed body and everything. And in the midst of it, about like a month removed from all of that, like birthing him, we buried him a couple of days later, we had a funeral for him and everything. I realized that there was such rich learning that I could never get in any curriculum ever, where my children learned grieving at a very real point. They saw their mom and dad cry and talk out loud about how we were feeling. They came to us all different times of the day, sometimes 2:00 in the morning, and just needed to cry with us or to just say how they were feeling. Even one of our kids wrote letters that we ended up burying with our son, of saying like how he had hoped to, play with Keegan and all of that, but that he was looking forward to heaven where he could see him again. And when I looked back at that, I was like, wow, my kids are probably going to be way more emotionally intelligent than I was at that age, or even was like in my 20s. And I think it was such a huge challenge because you're always in the back of your mind as a homeschool mom thinking like, are we getting enough done? Am I coming alongside am I really fostering a good atmosphere for education and all of that? But here it was really hard. And then we had gotten back into the swing of things in the new year. And then I miscarried twins, and it was just another round of grieving after kind of coming out of a season of grieving, coming back into a season of grieving. And my kiddos were just like, okay, we don't understand why, but we trust God. And just to have them like kind of sit with this, and even now they still openly talk about Keegan. My miscarriage with our twins was much earlier, so we actually don't know what sex they were. They were identical, but that led us to different books to talk about different things that they had an interest in. So we had this season where we have kind of picked up our curriculum here and there, and we've kind of gotten back in the swing of things, but we have had a little bit more peace about putting it down and being able to respond what it is that our kids have wanted to learn. And our kids have wanted to learn more. It's really funny. My daughter, Clara, she kind of became really interested in the development of babies in their mother's womb. So we took to Amazon. I bought some beautiful books about, the 9 months that a mom is pregnant and everything. And she just loves for me to read those to her. And she found that very comforting. She found that comforting for her. So we went there. My older two wanted to read a book about heaven. We went there, and so that's how we overcame that challenge. It was, you kind of feel like you're thrown into the deep end and you're like, I don't know how to respond to this. Like, you don't know how to, when your kids are old enough to understand death and everything, you're like, how do I walk this line? But intuitively, I knew that we needed to be open about it. And then it kind of just transformed what I thought was a very well laid curriculum plan for the year. It transformed it in a way that was really beautiful. And I think I'm actually better for it, watching them process all of this and seeing where their little minds have gone and what they've craved learning in that. And even just kind of picking up when they were sad, just kind of picking up other things. Like my kids, we're going to start gardening because they want to cultivate some life. They want to see some things sprout and all of that. And how it's kind of, this tragedy has given their minds these other ideas is really sweet. But it was certainly the biggest challenge that we have encountered. And it was definitely unforeseen.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing that story. I think it's going to be really helpful and encouraging to, I'm sure, many of the moms listening, because all of us are living our real lives, right? This is just ordinary family life while we're also homeschooling. So homeschooling can't be separated from the things that we're just going through on a day-to-day basis. Yeah. And so unexpected tragedy, or other hardships come up in the midst of the homeschool year. And I appreciate the way you shared about how the processing and the healing actually just homeschooling almost was a gift in the midst of that, because you were already all together. You could be very in tune with where your children were and approach things at a pace and in a way that was helpful and healing to all of you as a whole. And that was a real gift.
Oh yeah. My husband actually said basically the same thing that you said. He was like, homeschooling right now is just such a gift, because he said, I couldn't imagine having to have either forced our kids on the school bus and been like, pack it away, you need to go to school, or saying,
get yourself together.
Yes, pull it together, put a smile on, out the door you go. Or even being like, okay, well, now you're going to take a month off the process, but you're going to be behind on all your schoolwork. And, so he recognized very much the blessing in homeschooling to be able to just totally change the pace of how we were doing. And it served to be so good for all of us.
I'll mention here before I move on, I want to say, because of the way I record, I'm not sure if this will be coming after your episode or before. I want to say this, and I'll clarify in the show notes for this episode. But I actually interviewed Vicki Bentley from HSLDA, and the kind of big theme of our conversation really was homeschooling in the midst of things not going as planned, whether that's something really serious like a tragedy or a death, or even things like a new baby or a move or financial difficulties, things like that, like some practical tips about homeschooling in the midst of hard times. So I will put that link in the show notes for this episode too.
Oh man, I can't wait for that episode, because I think that should be, if I were to give any new homeschooling mom or prospective homeschooling mom, here are the things that you should consider listening to. I think that would definitely be one of the top things, because like you said, it's ordinary life while homeschooling. And it's, if you can already have that frame of thought, then it's so much easier to kind of shift and change with where life is taking you, like you said, because I have homeschooled with a new baby and that looked differently than what we were doing when I don't have a new baby. And, and we've also had some financial hardships and different things. And so all those things, I can't tell you how excited I am for that episode, because as a planner and a lover of organization, I love practical tips. I love to be able to like, so what does that look like? Check, check, and check. Perfect.
Right. And then somehow like our beautiful best laid plans, something happens and throws them off. We're like, I think I have to like give up this plan. Try something new.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
One of the things you've mentioned as something that I can tell that you love, and you mentioned what a great gift it is to your family, is your local co-op. And so I would love for you to share your perspective on the benefits of homeschooling with a co-op, and if you think there are any potential downsides, and if there's a mom who wants to find a local community or support, do you have any advice for going about to find her people?
Okay, so I believe that the benefits for me have been that, and I think this is another one of those really outdated stereotypes of homeschoolers, is that, you know, well, what about the like collective learning, right? And I think there's something really beautiful about that. I do, because I have seen my children be stretched by their fellow friends in their co-op class. It's wonderful. And so I think that's one of the great positives, is that you do have that community learning. For me, it also holds me accountable. It holds me accountable to be on a good trajectory of learning, because I know that I have to have them prepared in this particular way. So we have to, you know, even if only briefly, go through or begin these lessons that will help us when we get to the co-op, and everybody, because everybody's expected to come there. And even though you're doing a lesson there, there's some background that you've got to prepare with. And I find that to keep me accountable, so that I don't just like go and be like, we're just going to do whatever we want. And then, oops, it's co-op day, you know? So that really helps keep us on a track and keep us accountable. And for me, it's a lovely time, because, you know, you have lunch time with the families, and it's like a lovely time to catch up with my fellow homeschool moms, and to even ask them questions like, hey, so, you know, this child wants to kind of, you know, explore this. Do you have any books I can borrow on that and stuff? And I feel like it's really great touching base kind of being built in there. Also, I think that co-ops, you know, they really help you have those lovely relationships that, you know, you can sometimes feel like, well, are there any other kids that homeschool? And if you don't, you know, have that right away, you're kind of like, you feel like you're on an island. So it's lovely to not feel like you're on an island. And man, I love my kids learning from these moms that I trust so much, that are really gifted in particular areas. One of my friends, man, she is just brilliant at science. And I'm like, great, because I would love something off my plate. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, will I do it all myself? Absolutely. But it's so nice to be able to share that load, and to be able to be like, great, you know, she's gonna teach you, she's gonna do this really great science lesson with you. And she loves, you know, preparing those big science experiments. It's great, because I don't. I don't. And so I find that that's really great too, is being able to come together with moms and use your talent, and then them use their talents, and the kids are getting a deeper learning in whatever subject or what have you. The drawbacks, I think, of homeschool co-ops can be that for some, depending on your personality, I think it can feel overwhelming. So you have to really think through like which co-op you want to get into. I visited a ton of co-ops, because I was like, I need to see how they run. Will this be good for our family? Because if there's a too much expected of me to like prepare for that, and we don't have any wiggle room, like I'm going to crumble under the pressure, and it's not going to be enjoyable. And if it's not enjoyable for me, then the kids are going to feel that it's not going to be enjoyable for them. It's going to be just not anything what we intended it to be. And so I think really figuring out how you work and how the co-op works, and does that complement each other, is so important. And then, like I said earlier, I think the funniest drawback this year, and we all kind of joke about it in our co-op chat, is the price of gas. And we're like, woo, I love you so much. I'm still gonna fill up my gas tank and come see you weekly. But I think another drawback that I think kind of could be an unforeseen one is not preparing your children well for the co-op and kind of just being more easygoing through the week and then kind of just showing up. You don't want to be the family that shows up. And this might, prick the hearts of some people, but you don't want to be that person that shows up that has not prepared your children for whatever it is you're to do there, whatever that looks like, right? Because if you roll in with your kids and they're kind of just there, but they're not tuned into the learning, they can disrupt the learning atmosphere. And you only have so much time because we don't want co-op to take up all of our time anyway. You only have so much time. And so you want to make sure that when you're committed to a co-op, you are committed. You're committed to what they are asking, which is why you need to visit and kind of see, if that gels with you. And all pride aside, if you enter a co-op and it is not working for you, be okay with saying, you know what, I really like you guys, but this particular learning style or whatever isn't working for my family. So I think we should leave and open up space for any other family that really wanted to do this.
Yeah. I mean, again, right. You're not married to your co-op. So
yes,
there are different co-ops that operate differently and you can find the one that's the best fit for your family.
Yes. Yes. Oh, and you asked how to go about that. So here in Arizona, and I don't know if it's like this in North Carolina, and I always ask people when they ask me this question, I say, hey, is there an organization, a local homeschool organization in your state? So for us, it's the Arizona Families for Home Education. And we often, us cool kids, call it AFI, which is the abbreviation. But they have a really great website where you can go, and under their resources tabs, they have co-op, and all the co-ops that want to submit their information to the website, and it's put on there and it's on a map. So you can see like what part of the valley it's in, what they do. Is it religious? Is it secular? Is it just PE? Is it just enrichment or whatever it is? So you can go and then you can go down that list. And it's so convenient because that's how I like scoped out all of the co-ops in my area. I was like, I'm going to try this one this day. Ooh, and they meet on a different day. I'm going to try that one. So I was able to kind of test the waters and see what worked for our family. And I think if there is a local organization, that I would start there, and then check their website or ask somebody. And I've even said, if you're not sure, if you're on Facebook, check if there's a local homeschool Facebook group, because usually you ask in there or you use the search function, you can find people talking about co-ops and you're like, oh, perfect. So I think in our technological age, that is such a benefit that we can take to the internet. If we've like just, moved to a new state or whatever, there are those things that we can do to check that out. Even, I would say even the HSLDA, if you get in contact with their local office, they might have some insight on the different co-ops around the area. So there's plenty of avenues to do that. So we, and then when in doubt, just start kind of asking around, kind of put yourself out there if that is something you want to pursue.
Yeah, those are really great tips. Well, I would like to just ask here before I get to the questions I'm asking everyone this season, I would love to just pick your brain a little bit as a fellow mom of many. What are some of your strategies for keeping the homeschool running when you have many ages, many children? Sometimes mom is tired or sick, or you're just pulled in a million directions. What would be some of your tips for moms of multiple kiddos?
Step into my office. As a mom who loves to plan and organization, I got to start there. Okay. I've got to start there. It is the place that I think a good home runs from. And so sometimes it might look like taking inventory of like what's going on in your family and such, and where are your pitfalls? Where are your strengths and everything? And saying, okay, first visualizing, what does a good homeschool day look like? How does that run? And then being able to visualize that and kind of jot that down. I am such a pen and paper person. And I know in our technological age, that's not the coolest thing, but I actually don't like for it to get lost in my phone. My phone is too cluttered. Like you're always reaching for your phone for something. And I'm like, no, let me put that bad boy down. Let me get the paper. Kicking it old school. And I feel like when you visualize what a good homeschool day looks like, then you kind of see it. For me, it's very in-depth visualization. I am a former athlete, and my dad, he would have me out in our driveway at our basketball hoop, visualizing my baskets going in, and I had to visualize. And he would be coaching me, and I had to visualize. And I was a club competitive player, all of that, and that visualization, it's very big in the world of athletics. Visualization is so huge. And I have seen in other parts of my life how helpful that is. And specifically here, what does that homeschool day look like? Helps me say, okay, well, now if it's, we have an easygoing meal and we have our morning basket, but then you look at the reality of your morning and you're like, breakfast is chaotic. Well, what do you need to do to make that breakfast more mellow? And for me, I think that goes back to, meal planning. Keep breakfast simple so that then you can work that in, And so I like to put the pen to the paper, first visualize what a good homeschool day looks like. Where are the places that we need to improve to make that happen? And often I have found that having a decent cleaning schedule and good meal prep, and then with that cleaning schedule, what chores am I able to train my kids to do? What can I have them do to have them be part of the family, the household economy, right? And then organization. Do we need to declutter some? If I could be like the home edit, I would travel. And not even for the huge price. I'm sure the home edit is so expensive because like they do celebrities' houses and everything. But if I could be like them, I would totally travel and like help homeschool moms exclusively. Like, let's get this place organized. But truly, how can you declutter your home? If you're finding that like you're getting taken away and you're like, I can't find our books because they're underneath all of this, and it's just chaos. Like, okay, well, maybe there's some decluttering that needs to happen, and then some organization that needs to come into place so that it's easy. You can grab the thing, because that for me helps my homeschool day go well. We have certain places on our bookshelf where certain curriculum lives or certain storybooks and stuff. So it's like easy to grab. Okay. And so we don't have that rough transition time that then gets everybody out of their learning space. And then they're like, I don't want to learn anymore. I want to go dig in the sand, mom, and you're like, well, I guess we're not going to get that done today, which is totally fine here and there. But if that's generally how the day is going, that's really hard. And so I think when it comes to having organization, meal planning, and a good cleaning schedule in line, all the other things kind of just fall into place, because then your house is more peaceful and you can go from thing to thing, and you can even go to random things, because my 5-year-old, she loves like pull out a sensory bin, and she's like, can we do sensory while we do this? And I'm like, oh, I can go grab it because I know what shelf it lives on, and we can do that. Like, you have that flexibility when you have that organization in place. And to that point, like you did say that I love planners. I do. When it comes to the planner, I would say, because some moms feel like they want to start there and they need to have this pristine planner and they need to stick to the letter, to the planner. And as you said, we're not married to it. Okay. There's no ring on this finger from my planner. And I think when it comes to that, it's so important to keep the planning simple and whatever works for you. And even to the point, there have been seasons, I think we're still in a season where I'm planning in the rears. So I jot down, here are the things I want to get accomplished this week, but like on a separate sheet of paper. But in my planner, I actually write down what we got accomplished. So I'm not putting it all in my planner every day, and then I open my planner and I'm just instantly overwhelmed. And I'm like, no, I get to go back at the end of the week and look at my planner and be like, oh, we got this, this, and this said, oh, maybe we could have did a little bit more of that. We can pick that up next week. And it gives you some freedom in that. But I think that, and it's so funny because a lot of my friends are like, you're so extroverted, Kia. How are you so organized? And I'm like, it's work. It's work. You got to develop a system that works for your family that you can maintain and see where the pitfalls are in your family and then execute how to improve that. Because otherwise, then, you don't want to infringe on the learning atmosphere. If you have, because I feel like the more organized we are, and I love, some moms do morning menus. I don't know if you do that, but on our morning menu, on the back of it, we have like the responsibilities, the morning rhythm that my kids have to do and check off, and then their evening rhythm. And that helps also to all of us have kind of these checklists of a rhythm that we need to get through so that our house can run smoothly. And then I can also make time for my toddler to interrupt because he's going to interrupt. He's going to come, he's going to get into all of our supplies and all of that. But when we're more organized and it's like, okay, he can mess it up. It's fine. It's fine because we can focus over here or whatever.
Yeah. I love that. And I think too, sometimes when I think of planning, I automatically envision, and I've seen some of your planning and it is gorgeous. So I'm not speaking about yours, but I'll speak of mine. I can feel like, well, I'm actually like you. I'm an extrovert, but I like to be very organized and planned out. And, but I don't do it pretty. I use no washi tape, no fancy pens. I'm using lined paper and pencil. And so if any mom is feeling overwhelmed, like she has to get a beautiful planner or it doesn't count, the plan is actually what you put on there. It's not the decorations. So if you don't feel like moved to be crafty, it's okay if it's just pen and paper.
Please don't. Like it's so funny because I've had, through my planner spreads and everything, I've had people message me and be like, okay, so what planner do I need to buy? What accessories do I need to buy? And they ask all these questions, and my response is, how do you usually plan? And they're like, well, right now I'm just in like this, lined notebook. And I'm like, is it working? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, so then why are you going to switch? And then I say like, okay.
It doesn't look as pretty on Instagram, Kia.
I know. But I'm like, listen, if that's going to overwhelm you, and I tell them before you drop any money on that stuff, like, is it going to serve you or is it going to be an evil taskmaster? Because if it's going to like have you have sticker books in the corner collecting dust and you're riddled with guilt and stuff, and it's paralyzing you from actually putting the plan into practice, then don't add all of that extra. Because it's so funny because I love like doing beautiful planner spreads and stuff, but even mine, by standards of the planner community, are pretty simple. They're pretty pedestrian. And I truly don't spend more than 5 minutes putting them together. I'm like, ooh, what color am I feeling? Great. Throw some stickers on there. I'm like, done. And then I do use colored pens to draw my attention to certain things, but it's like really simple. And I'll let you in on a little secret. So people typically see my life planner, like my home organization planner on Instagram. What they don't see is my school planner. My school planner is typically written in just pen or pencil, and I don't even bother with stickers and stuff because I need more room to write. I need to write what we actually got done. So that one I keep really simple. I'm like, I don't even have the mental capacity of how I'm going to make this sticker fit here anyway. So I'm like, nope, we're just going to write in what we got done. And sometimes, like I said, I'll throw in a nice like purple pen in there, but that's it. Keep
purple
it nice and simple. It works every time. It makes you happy.
I'll try to find a link to one of your Instagram posts with one of your planners and put it in the show notes so people can see what you're talking about and visualize it. Here at the end, though, I want to ask you the questions I'm asking all of my guests. And the first is just, what are you reading lately?
Ooh, okay. So my favorite book of the year so far is Habits of the Household. Man, so the funny story behind this book is we at my school aid book group, which is most of the moms in my co-op and then some other homeschool moms, we do a book exchange for Christmas, right? And every year it's pretty controversial because like, you don't want to be the person who brings a terrible book and it's like, or a book that everybody's read, so literally nobody wants it. But then you bring like you kind of feel a little good when you bring like the hot book of the year. And so my friend, she she brought this book, Habits of the Household, and I was the last person, the last number to be able to pick book. So I stole that book. However, that book had one more steal to it. And because the person in our rules, everybody picks a number one at the end, because they probably had their book stolen a bunch, can steal one more time. So shucks, I was the last one. I got Habits of the Household. I was so excited. And then my friend who was number one took the book, and I was like, I still love you. And so I literally felt so salty that I like got on my phone instantly, and I was like, add to cart, buy now, and get it to me tomorrow. I'm so salty. I need to start this book, because my friend it really speaks to like the all the things that I love in life, like organization and stuff. But the beauty, it's by Justin. Oh gosh, Justin. I am so sorry, Justin. What is his last
Justin,
name?
I'm sure is listening right now, and his little heart is broken.
Justin, oh gosh, I'm so sorry. But
we'll find it, and I'll put it in the show notes.
We will find it. But Habits of the Household, it's talking about turning all these aspects of your life into liturgies, and keeping it organized too. And it's so wonderful that I'm actually reading it a second time. I love the book so much. I'm like, I needed to go back and read it a second time to really digest some of these concepts to continue to put into place in my home. But it just takes you through these ways to really be intentional about meal times, about screen time. And I know some people are like, I'm tired of being intentional about screen time, but it's actually really beautiful. The way he tells stories in his book, because he has all sons, the way he tells stories are absolutely engaging and hilarious and really relatable, that it doesn't make the book dry. You're like, yes, Justin, I feel you. Parents unite. But then he also says some really great truths that are convicting as a parent, to be like, I could do better in that. And so it is literally my favorite book of the year right now. I haven't found anything to touch it yet. I love it. But also I am currently going through, because I don't know about you, but I always have a book stack going.
Of course.
Always got a book stack going. And so the book that I have been so excited to dig into and have just started digging into is A Place to Belong. And I don't know if anybody follows Amber on Heritage Mom Blog. If you don't, you should. But she is so sweet, and she, in a way, has become like an Instagram friend to me. And she's such an encouragement. But her book is talking about, creating a more diverse library for your family and things. And I think that's really helpful, because we kind of are like, where do we start when we want to talk about certain aspects of cultures and history and stuff like that? Like, we're all asking each other, what books do you own? Do you have a book for this topic? Like, I feel like history is one of the hot topics of like checking everybody, like, what books are on your shelf? And so her book is really this encouragement to parents, and even suggestions of, here are ways that you can, like, add some diversity to your bookshelves. And I just think it's so beautiful. And I know that's like such a deep passion of hers. And so she's taken it up. She's taken on that load for the rest of us, and then put it into this book. So we have this lovely book to be able to refer to help us in that journey. So I'm really loving those books right now. Man, can't recommend them enough.
Amber is just fantastic. She's actually been a guest on this podcast twice. So, and most recently she came on and talked about A Place to Belong. And so, yeah, I'll link up those episodes. She's a great follow. Definitely recommend her book as
yes.
well. Yeah.
She was definitely worth having on your show twice, for sure.
Definitely. Well, Kia, what would be your best tip for helping the homeschool day run smoothly?
Be flexible. Be flexible. The end. No, I think, yeah, being flexible, because again, we're not married to our plans. And this year has definitely been a test in my flexibility of the days. And I just think, figure out what's the win. what is the win? Like what exactly, if you get this like one thing done, what is that win for you? You know, for a season for me, it was like read aloud. If I can just get a chapter of our read aloud done, whew, I feel like that is a win. And we've had a good homeschool day because we've all come together and we're enjoying this book. And, you know, from there, it kind of just goes into conversations about the characters or whatever. Right. So, yeah, sometimes we're just at that point where it's like, okay, things are a little bit different, or season is a little bit busier, or what have you. So what is like the one thing I'd like to get done? And I think about that probably every week. Like I look at the week ahead and I say, if everything kind of goes awry, what is like the thing that I really want to get done? And one of my favorite things to feel really successful in my homeschool day is getting my morning basket done. If I get my morning basket done, I'm just like, yay, we got some learning in around the table, all of us. It's great. It's wonderful. Boom. You know, if the rest of the day we do nothing else, or we are called away for an emergency or a you know, impromptu play date or whatever, we got our morning basket done, rock on. We are good. So I feel like being flexible really lands me in that spot. Like if I can be flexible, things can go well. Because if I'm too rigid, my children feel that and they're like, are you okay, mom? And I'm like, ouch.
Yeah.
Ouch. Okay, thanks for checking in.
You've already set yourself up for failure if you're like, success only means if we do all 200,000 things, you know, then you're going to never feel successful, right? Always be stressed out.
Oh man. Yep. You will probably have a lot of tears on your pillow. Your pillow's probably like drenched. Like I failed today again. You know,
you only got 198,000 things done, not 200. Yeah. I was so close.
you know, you're just like, no. What is the win? Where can you get that quick win? Even I feel like a quick win sometimes is like the thing. Like get that quick win in, and then the rest of the day is your oyster.
You know, today there was this big pile of swimsuits actually that were too small for people. They weren't even swimsuits we were wearing, or they were too big, like the ones that didn't fit anyone this year. And they've just been in a pile in my room. And I just kept thinking the magic swimsuit elves would put them away. And I don't know where those swimsuit elves are, but they have not been coming and helping out. And I've been getting more and more agitated every time I look at it. Like, oh, I really need to deal with that. But I haven't actually stopped to deal with it. And so today I had that thought come to my mind. And I was like, Amy, just like take a minute and put the swimsuits away. And now like the pile is gone. And it makes me so happy. It was like a quick win. And it took like 3 minutes.
Yes. And sometimes truly it's just those quick wins. And I feel like those quick wins can really energize you. So you're like, I can do more. Like I have energy. That took 3 minutes. I got more in me. Let's do it, you know?
So look out for the rest of the piles.
I'm still searching for the random pile elves. I need those elves to come and dwell in my attic. I will feed them well. And I need them at night to just go and put all of the random piles that my kids make away. And even that my husband and I like sometimes get out of step and make. And like, just go put those random piles away for me. I will feed you generously. I will love you. You can dwell amongst us. I just need you to appear at night and take it away.
Yes, I think
but they haven't shown up yet.
And did you ever read the story as a child, The Elves and the Shoemaker?
Yes.
That little fable. I think that really set me up for a sad life, because I was like, there will be elves that will come and do my chores in the middle of the night, and they just don't.
Yes. and no, they haven't come.
Not yet. I'm still waiting.
Still a wonderful story though.
Kia, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for chatting with me and sharing your family and your stories with us. Where can people find you on the internet?
Oh, yes. On the internet of the world, the World Wide Web. Does anybody call it the World Wide Web these days? Nope,
we don't. We can.
That's so 1997 of you. So on the internet, you can find me at kindly_Kia on Instagram. And the very same on TikTok. I'm a little silly on TikTok. That's the place to be silly. So some of the stuff goes hand in hand, and it goes on both platforms. But I mainly love to chit chat about homeschool and all the things at kindly_Kia at Instagram. And I love making friends there. I have made a lot of friends there, actually.
Yeah, and I will put links to those in the show notes for this episode over at humilityanddoxology.com. Thanks for chatting today.